The galaxy is safe once again.
In the pretend universe, kids play with pretend guns. In the real world, it's up to us to make sure they don't get their hands on a real gun. If you have a gun in the house, keep it locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a life coach, Nancy can teach you how to stay strong under pressure and work through challenges you face. Being legally blind, Nancy inspires others to be resilient in overcoming obstacles and live full out. You can ask Nancy for advice in your life on relationships, finance, business, health, and more. Just call in at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. Now, here's Nancy.
Welcome back. I'm Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show. And today we're talking about being fierce in life. And we have brought you an inspirational guest, Tsunge Nuera, who is going to share with us about how she got through some really hard times with her family, but also her health, and was able to find her way even to be such an entrepreneur to start her own clothing line. How do you go from A to Z and make all that happen? So I'd like to welcome her to the show.
Hello. Hi, Nancy.
Hi. Boy, aren't you just a poof of energy? I love it. So good to hear your voice. I want to kind of share with our audience a bit about your early years growing up. Because, wow, you went through a lot between 5 to 10 to, 14. But those were some really, really critical years. And the first place I'd like to start is, so your father, like so many, I mean, alcoholism is just tough, right? And it does change somebody's ability to their behaviors or their ability to love or even know when they're being not good, when they're being abusive. And can you share with us a little bit of, pre-5, what that was like, but also what you remember about your mom, choosing to leave?
So before I was 5 years old, I do remember moving from Malawi, which is where I'm from. I'm from Malawi, Africa. Then we moved to the UK. And we moved there because my mom had gotten a nursing job. And I remember my dad, the chaos in the household. He did deal with alcoholism. And I do remember leaving in the middle of the night in the UK to move to the United States of America.
And your mom was there to protect you. She was a really good mom. And she knew that for all of you to thrive, she needed to leave and got another nursing job in Las Vegas and ended up moving. And it was, there were years in there where, she was working hard. You all were, trying to get, acclimated and, those are, again, very, sensitive years. But your mom ended up getting sick, and your dad got sick. I mean, both of them when you were 10. What happened then?
So when I was 10, my mom fell very ill, and it was actually a couple months after my dad had started dealing with problems with his liver due to the alcoholism. And at this time, we were separated from my dad. So my dad was living in Malawi and we were living in the States. And my dad had been diagnosed with liver disease, and he eventually passed away from this in December of 2007. And then 3 months later, my mom, she was a nurse in a hospital, and she had fallen very ill while she was working. And a couple weeks later, she was hospitalized and found out that she had pneumonia. And about a month later, she had passed away from complications from HIV. She had an opportunistic infection of pneumonia. And it was really hard on our family. They only passed away 3 months apart, and I was in the 5th grade.
I'm so sorry. I mean, that is
Thank you.
a huge amount of loss that, a 10-year-old can't even understand the why. I mean, what is, what is HIV? What is alcoholism? I mean, at 10, you knew what they were, but, only as much as your 10-year-old person could know, right? You didn't know the depths of it. Now, interestingly enough, your older siblings kind of took on the parent roles, your older brother, your sister, and the three of you kind of banded together to try to grow up together. And you eventually got sick as well. What age were you, and what were some of the symptoms that you were starting to feel?
So when I was about 13, I remember it was about the end of 8th grade. So I remember throughout my childhood, I was pretty able-bodied, able to do everything that my peers were able to do, until one day I got a cold and I just didn't recover. And when that happened, it was very confusing, very disorienting. I felt like I had a cold, but it was constant. It wouldn't go away. And there was a lot of migraines, vertigo, fatigue, everything like that. And I still feel these symptoms to this day. So to this day, I walk with a cane and use a wheelchair. And when I was 13, it was very heartbreaking for me to find that out, and especially to know that my mother had passed away from the same illness that I had. It was definitely jarring to deal with.
So you ultimately had HIV and AIDS. I mean, it had progressed, and it left you in a disabled state. In what way?
So, like I was mentioning before, the same symptoms that I had when I was 13, they still persist to this day. Like they've changed over the years, gotten better, gotten worse, everything like that. It's been a flux, but the symptoms still remain. I deal with chronic pain, chronic fatigue, chronic vertigo, and other symptoms as well sometimes. But those three are the main symptoms that I deal with, and they render me to be having to use a cane and a power scooter or wheelchair.
Did they ever share with you, or did you ever find out how or you got HIV/AIDS? Because you were only 13.
Yes, I was born with it.
Mm-hmm. And how long were you in the the AIDS phase before you kind of were able to get to the HIV phase only?
The recovery was not too long to get undetectable. So becoming undetectable was maybe about 6 months to a year. It was back in the days of medicines like Atripla or Complera. And those medicines were for adults, so they were very hard on my juvenile body.
I'm so grateful that you're on the show today because, we hear about this, we've heard it in movies and there's been, a lot of great advancements, over the years, but you were so young to get this news. And so I want you to stay with us because as we journey along with her story, there's just a lot more that comes about. I mean, I can say this in my own way, having my own disability. It can be heartbreaking, it can be depressing, and one really has to look deep within to find their way out. So stay with us. We're going to be talking more about her story, but mainly, how did she take these moments in life and become fierce and live full out?